G'day folks, Wren here, and it is time for the Australian Readathon TBR. It feels like I haven't been in front of a camera in a long time, and kind of has been. It's probably been at least a week and a half since I filmed anything, because currently I'm caring for Chopper because he has just had a surgery to remove a tumour. So it's like 24/7 taking care of him, and it's rough. So I'm exhausted right now, so if I'm not super high energy, that's why. But I need to tell you about the Australian Readathon and the books I'll be reading for it. So if you haven't seen the announcement video, I'll leave that down below, as well as all of the co-hosts. So this is a readathon happening in November, hosted by myself, Mel from A Book Fiend Named Mel, Stef from Novelty Corner, and Meredith from Reading with Merb. There are two ways you can participate. You can either just read a book by an Australian author and you've participated. There is also a bingo board with a bunch of different prompts. Again, read from an Australian author. So I'm kind of going to go the bingo board route, but if I can fit in some more books by Australian authors, I will do that as well. So for the first prompt, which is an LGBTQIA+ book, I'm going to be reading Anything But Fine by Tobias Madden. I've been wanting to read this for a really long time, and I keep waiting for like the perfect moment, but that moment is now. This is a YA contemporary, and it's about a boy who's a dancer. I don't know if he's a ballet. Yeah. So he's about to audition for the Australian Ballet School, which I recently went to see a production of Swan Lake by the Australian Ballet. It was amazing. But our main character breaks his foot, so he is no longer able to dance, and then it's kind of about figuring out what else he's supposed to do now that dance is out of the question, and he meets a guy who's a rowing star, and they fall in love. It sounds very cute. I am very much here for this kind of story about like dancing. I find dancing absolutely amazing, and my niece is a dancer, so like I get to see all of the concerts and it's amazing. I'm really looking forward to reading this, and I've wanted to read it for so long, so like about time I did. The next square is an Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander author, and for this I'm going to read Drop Bear by Evelyn Araluen. This came out last year, I believe, and I've been really wanting to read it ever since, and I just never picked it up. So I got this from the library. It's very short, which is really good for how my life is going right now, where reading is a struggle. But this is a collection of poems and essays. Yeah, so Drop Bear integrates the complexities of colonial and personal history with an alternately playful, tender, and mournful intertextual voice, deftly navigating the responsibilities that gather from sovereign country, the spectres of memory, and the debris of settler coloniality. So it sounds intense, but really good, and I am really interested to read this. So next up we have middle grade or YA, and for this I'm going to read Queens of Geek by Jen Wild. This was very kindly gifted to me by Sasha, so thank you so much. This has been a book I've wanted to read for a really long time because it's queer, it's neurodiverse, and it's about like basically Comic-Con, which is awesome. I love fan conventions, they're so much fun. So this is about two different people, I believe. So one of them is a vlogger that meets their celebrity crush, and I think they get together. And the other one might be developing feelings for her best friend. I'm not really sure, but it sounds like a really fun time, and it also feels like a kind of a staple of YA, so I really want to give this a go. So next up is Hot Setting, and for this I'll be using the group book, which is The Boy from the Mish by Gary Lonesborough. I love this book. I gave it 5 stars when I read it, so this will be a reread for me. And I read this in a single day physically, which is something I don't do because it was just that good. This is about two boys becoming friends and then possibly more, and it's a very slice of life book, but it really delves into what it's like to be Indigenous in Australia with all of those undertones and overtones of racism, which is not good, but that's unfortunately how it is. But this is a beautiful book, and I just highly recommend everyone pick it up. If you only read one book in November, read this. It's amazing. And I'm really excited to reread this because I now have access to the audiobook. So I want to see what that's going to be like. So this will be a good one. And the next space is a free space. And for this, I'm going to read The Longing of Lone Wolves by Lana Petchakis. That's definitely not how you say it, and I'm very sorry. This is a indie paranormal romance that I've had on my Kindle for a long time, and I've heard really good things about it, and I completely spaced that the author was Australian until I watched Stef's recommendation video, and I was like, hell yes, I can read this. This is a book I wanted to read in 2023, so I can finally like check off some of the goals that I made at the beginning of the year. But this is about, like, they're not werewolves, they're phase shifters that can turn into wolves. So this sounds a little bit complicated, but there's our wolf shifter who is meant to protect a particular area and he is cursed, and then it's like he becomes a ghost but is still cursed, I think, and then a woman shows up where he is and he thinks that she can like break the curse. It sounds very complicated, but that could just be me not understanding the synopsis, but I am looking forward to it. I love wolf shifters with my whole heart and soul, so I'm really looking forward to this, and it seems like a really different kind of story than I have read before, like involving wolf shifters. So I'm very intrigued. And the next square is orange cover, and for this I'm going to be reading Headcase by Jack Heath. This is the 4th book in the Timothy Blake series. This series has become one of my favorites, like definitely top 5 of all time. Hangman, which is the 1st book, is one of my favorite books of all time. It's amazing. It's one of the host faves if you want to give it a go. And Headcase is where I'm up to in the series, and that is the latest one that has been released. I don't know if there's going to be any more. There hasn't been any kind of confirmation of if it's a quartet or a full series. I'm not quite sure. But this series is about Timothy Blake, who is at the beginning of the series, he's a consultant for the FBI, and he also happens to be a cannibal. Yeah, that's right, he eats people, and it's so fun. He's so messed up in like the best way. Like, he doesn't want to be like a bad person, but he can't help this. Like, his cannibalism is basically like an addiction, and he can't help doing what he does. He's so messy, but I love him. It's such a fun series, and I'm really looking forward to whatever the 4th book is about, which I won't tell you about because spoilers. The next square is set in Australia, and for this is a book that I am not 100% sure if I'm going to get to in the month. It does fit the prompt and I do want to read it, but if I don't get to this book, I'll be okay. And that is Henry Hamlet's Heart by Rhiannon Wild. This is set in Melbourne, I think? Do I know what it's about? Hell no. Do I know that it's queer? Yeah. I know that, and I know a lot of people really enjoy this, but I don't know what it's about. So, Henry Hamlet doesn't know what he wants after school ends. Mood. It's his last semester of year 12, and I thought this was an adult. And all he's sure of is his uncanny ability to make situations awkward. Luckily, he can always hide behind his enigmatic best friend, Len. They've been friends since forever, but where Len is mysterious, Henry is clumsy. Where Len is a heartthrob, Henry is a neurotic mess. Somehow it's always worked. That is until Henry falls hard for the last person he imagined. It sounds like it could be interesting, and I'm always here for queer books, so that's fine. Anyways, I'm looking forward to it, even if I don't super know what it's about, but yeah, this is at the bottom of my TBR pile, I think. Just, I've got so many other things to read, and I don't know if I'm going to be reading much at all in November. So there's that. The next square is indie or self-published. For this, I'm going to read Dreamy Tales by Tina Jean Cadman. This is a poetry collection that I picked up at a crystal new age shop kind of near me. It's a local author, which I was like, yeah, I'm gonna buy this. And all of the poems on the inside, they've got like photo paper, so there's like a bunch of different images, and it looks very short, but it sounds like it could be a good time. The back says a collection of emotive poetry encapsulating life, loss, and love. So the last square is a host fave, and for this I'm going to be reading one of Stef's faves, which is Not My Type by Evie Mitchell. I did not know that Evie Mitchell was Australian, and then when Stef put this on her favourites, I was like, oh my god, awesome, because I've been wanting to read an Evie Mitchell book for a really long time. This is just the perfect time to read it. Also, if you watched Stef's recommendation video, she actually has a discount for Evie Mitchell's book, Not My Type. So go over and watch Stef's video, which I will link down below, and you can get a free ebook or audiobook. I don't know if that is still running, but let's hope so. I ended up getting the audiobook of this because that's just how I read things. So this is a adult contemporary romance, and our female main character is the host of a podcast about accessibility, and she's in a wheelchair. I don't know why she's in a wheelchair, but she's in a wheelchair, and she needs to research rope play for her podcast, so she gets with this guy to experience that, and they fall in love. I don't really want to know too much about it, but like, I just hear the most amazing things about it, so I'm really keen to give this a go. It sounds like it's going to be fun. Then, as a little extra, I also want to read as much of Tor Quest as I possibly can, which is by Emily Rodda. I am currently reading Shifting Sands, which is book 4. If I could read Dread Mountain and The Maze of Beasts in November, that would be good. If I could read Dread Mountain, The Maze of Beasts, The Valley of the Lost, and Return to Dell, that would be even better. But, you know, we'll see. But this is a middle grade fantasy series. It is a very classic fantasy story where, you know, young person is sent off to collect certain things. So in this case, they're sent to collect gems to complete the Belt of Del Tora. All the gems have these powers. Once you collect them all onto a belt, it'll help save the kingdom from the evil peoples. That is a very basic explanation of this story. It's a really fun time, and I've been having so much fun reading these. So if I could read some or all of these in November, that would be really good, but we'll see how that goes. So this is kind of my TBR for the Australian Readathon, as well as Headcase, Belonging of Lone Wolves, and Not My Type. So it's a little large, and I just really hope I can fit all of these onto my TBR gate for November, so stick around for that. And let me know down below if you are participating in the Australian Readathon, and if you are, what books are you planning on reading? But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!